You ever read something and it just doesn't quite add up? You know, one sentence seems to say one thing and the next says the exact opposite. Now imagine that text was the Quran. This was a real puzzle for early Islamic scholars. They'd come across verses that, on the surface, seemed to totally clash with each other. But this isn't just a story about faith, it's about an incredible intellectual system they developed for finding a hidden harmony. Let's get into it.
So this brings us right to the big question, doesn't it? Could a holy book believed to be the literal word of God actually contradict itself? For the earliest Muslim scholars, the answer was a simple, resounding no way. But, okay, that conviction creates a brand new challenge. What do you do with the verses that really look like they're saying two different things?
To see how they tackled this, we're going to jump into a famous story. This is a real-life encounter with one of the absolute giants of early Islamic scholarship. So this isn't some dry, theoretical debate. We're going to see their method live and in action.
Okay, so picture this. A man walks up to Ibn Abbas. Now, this isn't just anybody. Ibn Abbas was a cousin of the Prophet Muhammad and a true master of understanding the Quran. And this man isn't there to attack or cause trouble. He has a genuine, honest question that's really bothering him. He just comes out and says it. I see verses in the Quran that seem to contradict each other. Boom. The challenge is on the table.
So what do you do with a question like that? How does the master like Ibn Abbas handle it? Well, he doesn't dismiss the man. He doesn't shut him down. Instead, he invites him, saying basically, okay, tell me which ones, and then he just starts unpacking each puzzle, piece by piece. It's amazing. Let's see how he does it.
All right, here's the first puzzle the man brings up. On the one hand, you've got a verse that says on the Day of Judgment, people will actually swear an oath, lying, that they were never polytheists. But then, there's another verse that says on that exact same day, they won't be able to hide anything from God. So which is it? Do they lie or not? It seems like a classic contradiction.
And the solution Ibn Abbas offers is just brilliant. It's so simple. He explains that these verses aren't describing a single moment, they're describing different stages of Judgment Day. First, he says, in that initial moment of pure panic, people will absolutely try to lie. But then, God will seal their mouths shut. And get this, their own bodies, their hands and their feet will start speaking and testifying to the truth. At that point, nothing can be hidden. The conflict just dissolves once you see it as a timeline.
Next up, a puzzle about cosmology. One verse says that God created the earth, then he turned to the heavens. But another verse seems to say that the heavens were made, and after that, the earth was spread out. So which came first, the earth or the heavens? It really sounds like a direct conflict in the creation timeline.
And here is where the genius of his method really shines. The entire solution hinges on the specific meaning of a single Arabic word, dahaha. Ibn Abbas explains the sequence. First, the earth was created, but in its basic, unformed state. Then the heavens were formed. And after that, the earth was spread out, that's the dahaha part, meaning it was furnished with mountains, rivers, and everything needed for life. So you see, the initial creation and the later spreading are two different actions. Once you understand that nuance, the contradiction just disappears.
So here's the crucial point. This kind of problem solving wasn't just a one-off display of brilliance. These explanations from Ibn Abbas and other scholars actually formed the foundation for an entire field of study, a whole discipline dedicated to finding the hidden harmony in the text.
It's called Mushkilul al-Quran. The name basically means the difficulties of the Quran, and it's all about studying those specific verses that seem tricky or contradictory. The goal is always to show how, if you have the right tools, context, language, theme, these verses aren't at odds at all. They're actually working together, perfectly complementary.
And the scholars developed a whole toolkit for this. We've already seen the different stages principle in action. But they also look at things like different contexts or distinguishing between literal and figurative language, a whole bunch more. Let's take a look at another one of these tools, understanding figurative meaning.
Take this really striking verse describing the Day of Judgment. It says, "You will see people who look drunk, but they are not actually drunk." Now, if you take that literally, it sounds like a complete paradox. How can you be drunk and not drunk at the same time?
But this is a classic case of figurative language. It's a metaphor. The verse is painting a powerful picture of people so overcome with absolute terror and shock that they're stumbling around totally disoriented, as if they were intoxicated. Understanding that it's a metaphor is the key to unlocking the meaning.
This brings us to the core philosophical idea behind this whole science.
Scholars made a really crucial distinction between two completely different kinds of difference you can find in a text.
So on one side, you have a contradictory difference. This is when two statements just logically cancel each other out. The light is on and the light is off at the same instant. Scholars argue this type of contradiction is impossible and is just not found in the Quran. But on the other side, you have a complementary difference. This is when you get different descriptions that actually enrich a single reality, like describing creation in multiple stages. This, they say, is what the Quran is full of.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? From this classical perspective, these difficult passages aren't flaws or mistakes in the text. They're actually seen as intentional invitations. They are prompts put there on purpose to make the reader stop, think, dig deeper, and ultimately engage with the text on a much more profound level. The journey of resolving the puzzle is the point.
And it all comes back to this foundational verse, which serves as both the starting point and the conclusion for this entire field of study. It frames the internal consistency of the text as a core argument for its divine origin. The apparent difficulties, once you resolve them, actually become proof of a deeper, more intricate harmony. So the question it really leaves us with is, what can be learned by looking for harmony and complexity rather than just seeing conflict?